Whenever you get a question on a pedigree diagram, how well you answer it boils down to the fact that you know the method of how to answer a pedigree diagram and that you understand dominance and recessive traits. So when you're looking at an example like this, the first thing that I need to point out to you is this is a pedigree diagram, the structure that we have here. And the pedigree diagram shows individuals getting married, having children, and then those two children, and one of them might get married and they have children. But as you can see here, the squares represent males and the circles represent females. But that does not mean these are sex-linked traits. Just because we're saying male and female does not mean it's sex-linked like in my previous video. In this case, it's eye color, which is not a sex-linked trait. We know that from our beginning examples on monohybrid crosses. So it is possible to get a pedigree diagram like this, but instead of eye color, have the inheritance of color blindness, which would then be a sex-linked trait, so that allele would be on the X chromosome. But just because you see males and females in a pedigree diagram, it is not necessarily a sex-linked trait. So let's have a look at how I go about answering it. So we first read the question. So the pedigree diagram shows inheritance of eye color over 3 generations of a family. Brown eye color is dominant over blue eye color. So big B is brown, small b is blue. And they will normally have a key. If it is a colored in square, it's a male with brown eyes, whereas if it's a white square, it's a male with blue eyes. So the gender does not matter. So the genotype of a male with blue eyes and a female with blue eyes is going to be identical genotypes. So my first thing I do is I find all the individuals that have the recessive trait. So in this case, blue eye color, and they are all of the individuals that are not colored in. And because they are recessive, they have to have 2 small b's for eye color. So I go through and I put a small b for 2 small b's for all of these individuals. The people with brown eyes have to have a big B. They have to, because they have brown eyes. So we know our law of dominance that the big B allele will mask the recessive one. Now, if we look here, now we need to decide if someone is hetero or homozygous. This individual is giving a big B to her children, but this individual, Joshua, can only give a small b to his offspring. So we do know that both Sarah and Peter are going to be big B, small b. Renal, we're not actually 100% sure if she is a big B or a small b. We don't know if she's homozygous dominant or heterozygous. So they wouldn't ask that if it's not very clear. But if I'm looking at it, because she has 2 children that are both brown eyes, she doesn't have any children that she gave a small b allele to give them blue eyes, I would think it is more logical that she is going to be homozygous dominant. Then we look at maybe Frank down here, and the same rule applies. Veronica can only give a small b to her children. So Frank and Gail both got a big B from Peter, but they have to get a small b from Veronica. It's all that she can give them. So I do all of the working out at once. I don't read the question yet. I do all of my thought process, and then I go and read the questions, because now it's easy. I don't have to do the working out every single time. So let's look at the questions. Question 1 asks, how many members of the family have blue eyes? It is as simple as just counting the squares that are not colored in, or the circles that are not colored in as well, because they don't specify gender. They could. But that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have 5 members that have blue eyes. Then, is Veronica homo or heterozygous for eye color? We find Veronica's name and we say that she is indeed homozygous. Well, she has to be, because she has blue eyes. So then you write there, you say homozygous. Then write down the genotype of. The nice thing is you've done all the work already. You've got Joshua, Renal, Frank already there. You just now read it off the diagram. So Frank, I've just seen him first, so he's big B, small b. Renal, we found out at the end that she's big B, because she has no children that have blue eyes. So that means she didn't give a small b allele to any of her children. And Joshua is small b. So in this case, they've actually asked 3 different individuals' genotypes. If Frank marries a woman with the same genetic composition as Sarah, so we've got Frank being big B, small b, and Sarah is big B, small b. Big B, small b. What is the percentage chance they're having of a child with brown eyes? You just do a very quick genetic cross, big B, small b, big B, small b, and you just fill in the genotype of all the individuals. But because it's two heterozygous parents, big B, small b, we know that there's going to be the ratio of 3 to 1. 3 being the dominant trait and 1 being the recessive. So actually it's a 75% chance. Or yeah, they've asked percentage. If they just asked chance, you could have said a 3 and 4 chance, which would be 75. So to recap, when you're looking at pedigree diagrams, the first thing you do is find all the individuals that have the recessive trait. So in this case, it was blue eyes, and you give them 2 recessive alleles. Because of Mendel's law of dominance, they have to have 2 recessive alleles in order to show the recessive trait. Then anyone who has the dominant trait has at least 1 dominant allele because they have the dominant trait, and they've given us the key. And then you work backwards and forwards looking at the children and the parents if you need to fill in the gaps. So look at what the children are inheriting from their parents and then inferring the other allele on the parent that might be missing.